przedstawić.
Biżut. The liqueurs of culture.
A to...
Szefowa Biura Oscarowego, Torene Svitil, opowiada o tym, jak zdobyć najbardziej pożądaną statuetkę w Hollywood.
Torene, it's a great pleasure to have you here. You're the Oscar lady. You work for the Academy, and you know, getting an Oscar to many filmmakers it borders on surrealism. So how do you do that?
Well, the first thing you have to do is submit your film. There are a couple ways to do that. If you just want to submit in the general categories, your film has to play in Los Angeles County for a week, and then you fill out some minimal paperwork. That's it. For the categories that I handle, it's a little more complicated, and you have to, I guess each category has its separate rules, and the best thing to do is go on our website, oscars.org/rules, and take a look at the rules, and if you have any questions, you can email us or call us or whatever, and we'll try and explain it. But it's a little more complicated. For short films, for example, you either have to win a qualifying award, and Krakow is one of those awards, or you can play it in Los Angeles County for 3 days in a theater. And then you have to fill out some paperwork and send us a copy of the film, and we screen it for the members. So that's how it works for short films. Documentaries are different, foreign language films are different, and that's all available on our website. I think that's the quickest way to describe what to do.
So when you compare a Polish documentary to the American one, it's small, it's very intimate. What do you think are the weaknesses and strong points of Polish documentary?
Well, I think you just named one of the strengths, which is that it's small and intimate. The thing with not just Polish films, but every foreign language film is that I think people have to realize that when you're making a film for export, you have to put any kind of national or cultural subject into a context that will give it a little bit of explanation for people who aren't familiar with it. For example, when I was at Karlovy Vary, I saw a wonderful documentary on Václav Havel, but unless you knew a lot about Czech history, you didn't really have the context to put what he did to kind of give that some kind of meaning. So I think if that documentary had been made for export, they would have had to give a little bit of explanation of Czech history, what was going on when Havel did what he did at certain times. And so that's really it, to always be aware that if something is really personal or really cultural or historical, there just should be a little context so people who aren't familiar with that subject know where it's coming from. And I think also, I think you need to be aware of the techniques. It has to be well shot. It has to look good, because otherwise people are just going to be turned off.
A note taken. What other advice would you give for young filmmakers?
Well, I think one of the things I notice a lot, particularly in documentaries and short films, is that people either try to put too much into a short space, or they try and take a small subject and expand it. So it's best to really, people shoot a lot of footage, they think, oh, I want to include all this footage, it's all so wonderful, but really it's not. So I think you need to edit, you need to have a beginning, middle, and an end. It doesn't have to be a narrative structure, but it should have a starting point, it should come to some conclusion afterwards. And yeah, I think that's it. And oh, big point, save some money for promotion. It's really hard, I know, because most documentaries and short films and foreign films are shot on a small budget. But if you don't have the money to promote it, you've put all this effort into a film that nobody will see.
But you know, many films recently, they have been made in 3D techniques. Say Wim Wenders' Pinna, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm thinking, do you think this is the future for documentary?
For some documentaries, I think with 3D you have to be aware of how it goes with the subject. For example, in Pina, it made perfect sense because you felt like you were in with the dancers. It was really, that made perfect sense. And I think for like Werner Herzog's Cave of Forgotten Dreams, it made perfect sense. But if you're just having a documentary which is an interview like what we're doing, no. I think it would be really distracting. And I personally am not a big fan of it in most cases. I think if it's just done for effect, there's no point. And it's a very expensive technique. So if you're shooting a small, intimate documentary, you don't need 3D.
Torene, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's been wonderful here.
I hope to see you again next year. Thank you so much.
That would be great. You're welcome.